lesbian, and I just was stricken with very bad cancer. And while I was in the hospital, my parents, who also know of my homosexuality but just don't want to face it, slighted my lover. I mean, to the extreme where they were so rude, they would walk out of the room when she came in. And when it was time for me to go home, they wanted me to go to their house, not understanding that where I live was my home, and this is who I was sharing my life with. And my biggest fear is in the future, if something happens to me where I can't force that issue, that this is going to happen to me, that they're going to take this right away from me. It's an awful, awful feeling.
Well, you're not doomed, are you? I mean, what does the doctor say?
Well, no one's doomed, and no one knew that she was going to get into a car accident either. I mean, these are issues, I mean, that really hit home when you realize how they're going to treat you.
Karen?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important that we realize, whether we're gay or non-gay, in a relationship, not in a relationship, that every single adult needs to think about these kinds of issues. In one split second, any one of us through an accident or illness could become disabled, as Sharon did. And in that one split second, are you prepared? Have you been responsible and made sure that the people you love and the people you care about are protected? And even people in the traditional marriage, of course, we didn't have the right to legally sanction our relationship, so we were very vulnerable. But there are things that we could have done. And even people who are in a legal marriage-type relationship still need to take other protections because, again, buddy, if you're in an accident together and one dies and the other's in a coma, who then makes the decisions? Very quickly, you could find yourself with a judge making these decisions for you. They're what we call durable powers of attorney. It's a springing power of attorney that now, while we're competent, we could designate who should act for us if we ever became incompetent. There are living will statutes. There are partnership agreements. There are all kinds of ways that we can build the record as to what we would want if something like this happened, and then hopefully we'll be more protected.
Ma'am.
I wonder if Sharon has ever communicated to you her feelings about her father's behavior or position he's taken.
May I just interrupt to help you answer that question? Here is her father responding to the following question. During this ordeal, with all the legal challenges, all the court cases, we should be grateful that, if I understand this, someone thought to ask Sharon what she wanted to do. Did she want to live with Karen or with her, or at home? Did she want Karen to be the guardian or her parents? If I understand this, sometimes she said no, and sometimes she said yes. This was the implication that was offered as the reporter asked her father, what does he think his daughter meant when she said yes? Here was his answer.
No matter who would ask her, do you want to see so-and-so, I think she'd be happy to see anybody, you know. She'd like a visitor. I don't think she wants to see her.
Yeah. Karen.
I think, again, you have to know very clearly what's a response and not a response with Sharon. If she's having muscle spasms, she'll sit there and she'll go up and down. So if you ask her a question, it's possible you might think she's giving you a yes response. It's a no response at all. So you have to be very clear on what are responses and what are not responses when you ask a question. And I don't believe Sharon has ever been inconsistent. 16 professional witnesses appointed by the court said through the last year and a half of hearings that Sharon consistently, every single time, responded she not only wished to see me, but she wished to live with me. And again, that's you know, something that Sharon should be asked and Sharon should be listened to.
After the court order, are you going to eventually get to take her home? And if you are, how are you going to do it? Are you going to keep on working, or?
And I think that that's the irony of this is that life would never have been easy for Sharon and me. A drunk driver thought of that with one split second. You know, he shattered our lives as we knew them. We've not asked it to be easy. We just want it to be possible. And people had the idea that as soon as the order came out, you can snap your fingers and take a person home. We need attendant care help. We need to see how much speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy will be covered still under the medical assistance. Our federal government and state government's willing to spend much more money to keep people inside of institutions than they are to spend a lesser amount of money to make sure that they can live in an independent living environment, and that's outrageous. So we need to know financially what we'll be held accountable for and can we afford it. We need to make sure that we have the support systems in place that we can make it work long term. Caring for a person who is severely disabled is very difficult, and I want to make sure I'm going to be in it for the long haul. I don't want to bring her home and fail. We're moving in that direction, and we're right now having an assessment done as to exactly what will be available and what will not be available should I move her outside of an institution.
Can I ask her a question?
Sure. That's up to Sharon. Yeah.
Do you feel tired?
She said no.
No. Would you like a glass of water? No. Do you feel comfortable? You feel comfortable?
Clear yes.
Yes. Are these lights too bright for your eyes? No. Did you fly in an airplane? Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy the flight? Did you sit by the window? Clearly, yes. Clearly, no.
Oh, and she's been able to shake her head yes and no since she came out of the coma, and people have just blatantly ignored what she's had to say. And as I said, she can then type words, phrases,
She's handicapped,
sentences.
therefore we don't respect her. Is that your point?
Oh, I think we ran into several isms. She's a woman. We've ignored what women have had to say for centuries. I think if a man would have... I think if a man would have typed out the same responses that Sharon has typed out, it would have carried a lot more weight. And heaven forbid, then, that she's a woman with a disability. Because, again, we discount what people have to say who are disabled. And again, so it was like having 2 strikes against her right there. And then be a lesbian, and we're a really invisible group. And there's no way they want to see or hear what we have to say.
Sharon Kowalski, and we should say, I think you've modified your house, have you not, to accommodate
Yes.
the wheelchair?
I've built an accessible home. It's ramped, wider doorways,
Right.
everything, so she can be as independent in it as possible.
Yeah. Sharon, may I ask you to hold my hand? May I ask you to squeeze? Yes, you are. You going to squeeze my hand? That's a pretty strong squeeze. Now, will you kindly release my hand? Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely released when I asked. Sir, you wanted to ask.
I see this largely as a disabilities right issue. I work at Long Island University. I provide services to college students with disabilities, and we've been very supportive of Sharon. The point I want to make is I think it's very common that people with disabilities are infantilized. They're treated as children.
Absolutely.
And the other issue I want to mention is that to look at students with disabilities, people with disabilities, sometimes the visual impact is deceiving. And we tend to forget that there really are feeling people inside, people exactly like the rest of us.
We do thank you very much for that enlightened commentary. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have a question. Is there anyone on your side of the family or her side of the family at all who supports this relationship or is helping you out with the responsibility?
My family has all been extremely supportive. I mean, it's a heck of a way to come out to one's family, and I wouldn't recommend that this is the way people do it. They're all at varying stages of dealing with their own homophobia, but they have been extremely supportive, and they've been there for us.
Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Sir, you wanted to ask.
Yes, I'm a 26-year-old gay male, and I also am HIV positive. And I heard the comment that the father made, I don't think that she wants this. I know if my father was in a situation, he wouldn't allow me to socialize in the gay community. What legal right do I have? What forms can I fill out to make sure that this right is not taken away from me?
The what right now?
The legal right for the gay community, for my lover to make my choices, for me to socialize if I get sick in the gay community.
Are you out with your parents?
Yes.
And is there any relationship left with your parents?
Well, I know my father really doesn't appreciate having a gay son, and he would love for me to not be able to socialize in the gay community, and this would be his control, his way to control me, and I wouldn't want that.
Yes, briefly, please.
Again, I think I went over it earlier, the durable powers of attorney, the living wills. We need to build a record of our relationship and what we want.
Can he forestall his parents posthumously interrupting his lover's decision-making over funeral, burial, friends, attendees, etc.?
He can if he has the right legal papers. Usually people don't want to be sued. Medical people don't want to be sued. If I have a durable power of attorney and I had walked in and said, you know, I have the ability to make decisions for Sharon, I wouldn't have had to spend 2 hours trying to find out if she's dead or alive when no one would talk with me because
So
I
this
wasn't
one
family.
instrument can do it then?
Certainly.
Power of attorney?
Yes.
With witnesses and notary and all
Yes.
that?
Yes.
And a reasonably simple instrument, is it?
Yes, it is.
Sir, ma'am, I'm sorry, you wanted to ask.
After this all came out, what was the response at your college?
My university has been extremely supportive.
St. Cloud State, Minnesota.
I think in the beginning they kind of hoped it would just blow over and go away. And I do believe that I'm much more protected out than I am in the closet. I mean, you become, for them to try to discriminate against me then would have looked like discrimination. But my university has supported me, like they gave me professional leave to come here to be on the show. As long as I make appropriate arrangements to cover my classes, I give in-service training workshops on homophobia, heterosexism, ableism issues to people all over the country. And they have enabled me to do that. So I really appreciate the support of my university.
To Karen, I just wanted to commend you. Whether people agree with your sexuality or not, the love that you are showing for this woman, I think, is incredible.
Yeah,
And that's it exactly. It doesn't matter whether people agree with our lifestyle or not. It'd be nice if people could understand. But whether they agree or do not agree, can people be denied basic human rights, like proper care, like being allowed to see people they want to see, et cetera, et cetera? And that's what happened. Basic rights were denied Sharon.
I do thank you for waiting, caller. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, Phil. I just wanted to say I think the parents should have been giving more say in the issue, as they were the ones who brought her into this world. And then what makes us so sure that Karen will stay by Sharon's life, by her side for the rest of her life, as opposed to her parents?
Yeah, Karen commenting.
There's no guarantee parents stay by people's lives for the rest of their lives either. I've been here for 8 years. I mean, obviously you can only, say that I love Sharon as much today as I ever loved Sharon, and as a matter of fact, it continues to grow every day. I learn things from Sharon every day, and she's just a wonderful, special human being, and she's an adult. She has the right to be treated as an adult. Adults grow up, leave their homes. We very seldom choose to live with our parents after we become adults, and it's not because we don't love our parents. I mean, I dearly love my folks, and I never want to live in Ohio again. And I like Ohio. It's a nice place to visit, but all of my friends, the support group, are Minnesota, so again, that's my home.
Should it not also be said that you have no interest in disallowing Sharon's parents from
They came and visited Sharon in our home prior to the accident. Why don't they do it now?
That leads into my question. How long were you together before the accident?
We were in a committed relationship for 4 years prior to the accident. We'd known each other for 6.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know, who's paying for all her financial needs? Are you or her parents?
Actually, neither. Sharon is on medical assistance, and other funds are now paying for most of her care. If I bring her home with me, no doubt I'll be paying some things that won't be covered under medical assistance.
And what kind of support did you get from the gay community in the area where you live? Were they supportive for you?
I've been extremely, it's wonderful that they've been there for me. This is the very community I didn't want to be labeled one of, all right, prior to the accident. So I've had to learn to deal with my own internalized homophobia before I could learn to help other people deal with theirs. But they've been wonderful.
You spoke, Karen Thompson, I'm not sure of the year, late 80s?
87.
87, to the Gay and Lesbian March on Washington, in which you made the point from the podium that you acknowledged that here you are with friends who you're happy to be with, and it wasn't that long ago that you didn't want to be one of them. Mm-hmm. And you made the point that you were proud to be a lesbian, proud to be one of you, as you put it to the audience, and then you went on to make this point.
Before Sharon's accident, I didn't understand sexism, racism, handicapism, homophobia, militarism, or anything else along those lines. I didn't understand that they're all interconnected, and I certainly never questioned who do they benefit. I didn't understand if I didn't stand up and fight for someone else's basic human rights today who were being violated, then tomorrow Sharon's and mine could be stripped away.
As a faculty member at a college, has any other students or any other faculty members came out of the closet since you have, or do they come to you as a confidant now?
I think it has opened the door that people know that I'm a safe person to talk to on a lot of issues, because I've made it very clear that I'm not going to judge someone who's different, that people can be different, people can be okay. So yeah, a lot of people have come out, and it's nice to know I'm not the only one there.
It's obvious that you love her very much, but I wanted to know, out of all that time, is there any time that you ever thought that you wanted to give up, or you couldn't take it anymore?
I'm a human being, and you get very tired, and it's hard to go to bed every night seeing the love and the trust that I saw in Sharon's eyes that last time I saw her before we were separated, when she typed out, "Help me, get me out of here," and looked at me like if I really loved her, I'd do that, and the trust that was there that I'd do that. And I had to tell her my visitation time was up, I had to go home, and that turned out to be the last time I saw her for 3.5 years. And that was a tough, tough thing to live with, because I continued fighting for her right, you know, to get out of there. And Sharon, when she was asked by one of our friends, "Do you understand why Karen's not here?" said no. And when it was explained to her, she typed, "I thought she left me." How sad.
I just hope that anyone who's ever driven drunk or who's thinking about driving drunk tonight is watching this program to see the tragedy.
Caller, you wanted to say.
Yes, Phil. I'm a lesbian, and my lover and I have been following this Sharon and Karen's fight for quite some time now. You see, we've been in a custody battle since 1987, and Sharon and Karen, it's your strength that has kept us going all these years, and we'd like to thank you.
Custody of whom, may I ask?
My son.
I see. Your husband's fighting you, your ex-husband.
Yes, and he has custody. He won custody because I am a lesbian.
Right. How old is your son?
He will be 8 pretty soon.
I assume you have visitation.
Yes, for a good 5 years, I had 8 hours a week. The day that Sharon and Karen won their battle, my lover and I finally got to see my son together. This was the first time in all these years that she was allowed to see him.
Mm-hmm. And you're still fighting?
Yes, we are. And I'd like to thank them. And Sharon, we shared the same birthday. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. We'll be back. Karen Thompson co-authored this book titled, "Why Can't Sharon Kowalski Come Home?" This is a softback, so it's not going to break your budget, but here's the very compelling story of, incidentally, the Minnesota Civil Liberties Union was very helpful in this undertaking. You wanted to say, among other things, that you think it's important for this audience to know how this thing got all in bubblegum as it made its way through the courts.
I think that
Sharon.
people, the press, actually tried to portray it as a me against them mentality, you know, me against the parents and a power control issue, versus a matter of human rights, Sharon's basic human rights, or our rights as a couple, that kind of thing. And how differently people would have perceived the story if instead of the press entitling an article, "Lesbian Bitter Over Outcome of Case," and they don't even think they have to name me, I'm the only lesbian, right? And then they go from, you know, if that would have been entitled, "A woman with a disability denied the right to see a person she wants to see," or "denied the right to proper care." Sharon went from being able to do standing pivot transfers, I could pick her up with a transfer belt, she could bear weight with support, to being so contracted she takes a 2-person carry transfer or Hoyer lift transfer. This was a critical loss to us. Her legs were so contracted you couldn't stretch them past a 90-degree angle.
3.5 years in your absence.
Yeah, what they let happen to her.
Arrested what you felt could have been very meaningful therapy. This audience should also know that Sharon, prior to this accident, was about to become golf coach, was she not?
At St. Cloud State University, yeah.
Women's golf coach. You wanted to say, sir?
Just along that same line, in my hometown of East Lansing, Michigan, City Council just passed an ordinance that health insurance could be provided for people's significant others.
Wonderful.
So things are really changing.
We're coming along, yeah.
A major war.
Yeah. Are you there, caller? You wanted to say? Yeah.
Yes, I am, Phil.
Yes, briefly, please. I'm almost out of...
Yes, the only thing I'd like to say is that there is a family member part of this story. My mother is a terminally MS patient. She is a lesbian. I respect her. I respect these people immensely. Her lesbian lover has taken care of her for the last 10 years. And
you're pleased about that?
Yes, I am. I am her daughter, and I'm very pleased with that.
Well, you will have no legal fees then, and this is probably this is what we're looking for. Hang on a minute.
I'd just like to say, hearing this is just a breath of fresh air, this love that you have for each other. And I'd just like to ask one question. Karen, how did your parents take this?
Yeah, my parents have been really good with it. And it takes time. I mean, obviously, if they knew other parents who had children who were lesbian and gay, then it would be easier for people to deal with this. If we all came out, if all lesbians and gay men were out, it wouldn't be such a tough issue for people to deal with. Nor could we be discriminated against as easily as we are discriminated against as we come out one or two at a time, because there are too many of us. Everyone knows someone very closely who is lesbian or gay, or you have a family member. And again, I think as long as we're invisible, we're vulnerable, and we need to come out, let people see us. And people fear what they don't know and don't understand. And as they get to know us, they find there's nothing to fear.
Karen, did you asking Sharon about the accident, did that cause her to have the spasm?
No, I don't believe so. Because of the nature of the brain injury, she'll go in and out of that type of activity off and on all day long, some days more so than others. But I mean, I was hoping she'd tell you how she felt about being hit by the drunk driver, because it's only been in the last few months that Sharon has started to respond with feeling types of responses, and that's a whole new level of thought. Yeah. Are you ready to respond to that, Sharon? How do you feel about having been hit by a drunk driver? Can you type that out here? Would you tell them how you feel about that? Because she typed out, "It pisses me off."
Did Karen win guardianship because the parents withdrew?
Oh, I had a tough time winning guardianship even without the parents. The courts would still rather appoint somebody else who had nothing to do with it.
Did you enjoy being on my program? Yes. Karen, you do not know exactly what happened to this drunk driver, but you think he served only a short term.
It's my understanding he just served a few months in jail and the rest on probation.
And your recommendation for drunk drivers would be?
I think that one of the best things that you can do to help people to understand the damage that can be caused is to
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following.
If your old cards can't cut it anymore, get a new deck of bicycle cards, because your reputation is on the table.